Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the Second City podcast. My name's Daniel Sketchley,
And I'm Callum Dan.
and something a little bit different this week. Obviously, we're going to be back very shortly with our end of season review for Blues and Villa and the West Midlands football as a whole for the 23-24 season. We're actually going to wait. We're actually going to do like an in-person one, like we did for the end of 2023 review. So that's why we're just holding off on that. So we're just waiting until next week to do that one. Logistically, a bit
Syncing
easier.
the calendars.
Yeah, syncing the calendars instead of doing it over Zoom like we normally do. So instead, we're going to do something a little bit different this week. We are doing our UEFA Euro 2024 preview. Obviously, starts on June the 14th. First major tournament in the podcast's lifetime. So, don't know about you, Cal, but always exciting when we get to this point. Squads are being announced a few weeks out from the tournament.
Yeah, I was thinking the other day actually, it feels like this Euros has come around really quickly, and it's because it has, because obviously
Yeah,
2020 was delayed a year, and then the World Cup was in a slightly weird period.
yeah,
So the gap between the Euros and the World Cup hasn't been very big either. So it's like
yeah.
from now we're sort of back on sync again with how it
Mm.
was before COVID. So yeah, if it's come around very quickly, but if the weather gets better, it's
Oh,
great.
yeah, it's almost like the first normal major tournament for quite a while, really. I mean, obviously, the last Euros was a great tournament in terms of the football itself, but obviously it was kind of COVID still sort of, so like the stadiums weren't full and it was that weird like a pan-continental setup. Obviously the last World Cup was in the winter, so that was kind of strange. So really, even Russia, you could argue, was a little bit weird. But yeah, first normal Euros anyway for 8 years. So no, so but yeah, in this episode we're going to just talk a little bit about obviously the upcoming Euros, and we're going to preview that, who we think the favourites are, things to look out for, and before all that, we're going to do kind of our memories of the Euros and favourite games from over the years and so on. Um, so yeah, just something a little bit different. Obviously, we're a Blues, Villa, West Midlands football podcast, but instead, the Euros, isn't it? And especially after the season that Blues have had, I am more than happy to think about international football for a little bit instead. I think I need the Euros or a World Cup or a Euros right now.
And also, these are the tournaments that bring us all together.
Yes.
You're right. Your club rivalries go aside to a certain degree, and we're all in it, supporting the national team. Um, but yeah,
We say that. I mean, you're in your England shirt and I'm in an Ireland shirt. So,
yeah, well,
like,
yeah,
very thematic for the podcast.
yeah.
Um,
A team famously not in the Euros this year.
yeah, yes, very true. All most years for that matter.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so we'll start where we always do though with what we're wearing. We thought we'd get some international shirts out and kind of do the old format like we normally do with Blues and Villa shirts. So Cal, do you want to go first or shall I this week?
Did you guessed mine first last week, so I'll try and guess
I
yours
did, yeah.
first this week.
Yeah,
So again, I think I've got the easier one this week.
yeah,
So I think this is a mid 2010s Ireland shirt. So it's green home with sort of it's sort of got stripes in it, but sort of diagonal stripes
yeah,
from shoulder to shoulder. It's got a nice white collar with an orange strip through it. Umbro.
yeah,
It has
yeah.
the
Three
three,
is this
yeah,
kind of weird. All the Ireland
threes.
shirts have the sponsors on them when you buy them, except the very newest one.
Yeah, it's only because they didn't have a sponsor with it. It's one thing I love about the international shirts is they have no sponsor on them. And
Mm,
as you'll see with mine, if you get a player on it and you get the numbers on it, you can get the number out on the front like they do in the actual tournaments. So the Ireland shirts really annoy me that they put sponsors on them, even
mm,
though like the one behind you, that Aircom, like is iconic from childhood.
yeah.
My old Ireland shirts. But yeah, I'm gonna take a punt. Is it 2016 home?
Yeah, absolutely bang on. 2016 home. I thought it'd be good to get it on. So I went to Euro 2016 with the Midlands Republic of Ireland Soccer Supporters Club. Went to a couple of the games there. And yeah, great memories. Did like was it 10, 12 days in France, trekking around in a caravan. Just great memories. I was 18. It was like I think I was 18. Yeah, just great memories. Like a wild time, and you'll know because you've been to. I know you went like more in a work capacity, but you'll know from going to a couple of World Cups and Euros and stuff. It is like mental. It's
Yeah.
just a complete festival of football. There really is nothing like it, and yeah, great atmosphere and great laughs and stuff. Like I'll never forget we were in Bordeaux. We went to Paris, then we went down to Bordeaux for the second game against Belgium, and there was these like just little things. I remember like there's these two Belgian guys in the like the campsite we were in Bordeaux was insane. It was like the one in Paris was really like makeshift, and it was it was fun and stuff, but it was clearly a bit run down. And then we got to
Yeah.
Bordeaux. It's absolutely amazing. This campsite. It's like glamping basically.
Yeah.
I think it blew all of our expectations away. And like there's like a pool there and a bar and like it was absolutely amazing. I remember we were in the bar the one night watching like whatever games were on, and these two Belgian guys joined us and were like actually mental, like just on the crack as they say. Not literally on the
Yeah.
crack. I mean like
Yeah.
CRAIC, like I should say.
Yeah.
Um, and then we went like called it a night, went back, got some sleep. Then I had to go back down to get something from like the reception the next morning, and they were still there drinking the next morning. Like, I was like, oh my God, this was the day of the game as well. So they must have had a good one when they beat us 3-0. Um, but yeah, great memories. This is a really nice kit as well. I actually really like the kind of diagonal pattern going across it.
Yeah.
Nice little
Subtle.
touch of color. Yeah, sort of nice touch of color on the collar as well. Um, Bizarrely though, like we've worn obviously from wearing all my blue shirts. I've been surprised at how much some of them still fit me from like years gone by. Like I've worn some from like 2013 that kind of still fit me okay, weirdly. This is the opposite. This must be a small because I'm absolutely sucked into this. This is going to be quite hard to get off, I think, once we're done here. But no, lovely, lovely shirt. I got some lovely ones behind me as well for those watching on YouTube. In particular, the current bar one Castor kit with the new badge. I think it's an absolute beauty. I was going to go for like a more of a cross country, like for the Euros, and get a few like different international kits on, but I don't really have any. I haven't looked for it. I've got a Hungary shirt from when I went to Budapest, but other than that, I don't really have much diversity. So I was like, oh, well, I'll just got a few Ireland shirts. Pierce lent me a few, my cousin Pierce. So that's what I've gone for, just some Ireland kits from over the years. Uh, so yeah, this is 2016 home that they wore at the Euros. Last Euros that Ireland went to as well. So, um, how about you?
I could have. I was just thinking I should have put some kits up behind me because I do have some
Oh, don't worry.
cross European ones. I got a couple of
Oh, that's
Germany
fair enough.
shirts, an Ireland shirt, England shirts, and one that won't
Mm.
be getting worn anytime soon, which is a Russia shirt. Um,
Ooh.
yeah,
Yeah, of
so
course.
that's going to
Oh,
stay in the cupboard for about 10 years at least, I think.
oh,
So
at the very least,
at the
yeah.
very
Wow.
least, yeah, which is a shame because that is an absolute beaut of a shirt. I think it's an Adidas.
Mm.
One, it's the away shirt from the 2018 World Cup. Beautiful shirt, but
Yeah, yeah.
um, what do you think of this England shirt, Dan?
Sure, I think I should be able to get this actually. That's I'm pretty sure that's the last Euros, England
Yeah,
2021. You got 7 on it. I'm pretty sure that's Grealish's number.
it is. It does have.
Um, I
Yeah.
know this from our mate Liam. I don't I know he listens to the podcast, but it was the week the Euros started and we went to the cinema. The last Euros, like before the games, obviously.
Mm.
And he rocks up in like he's a Villa fan, Liam, and he
Yeah.
rocks up in like his Grealish 7 England shirt. I was like,
Yeah.
ugh, like, really, like, um, but yeah, no, yeah, that's Euro 2020, or obviously took place in 2021.
Yeah. An absolute gorgeous shirt. I mean, there's a nice little paneling down the side, and I've not been a huge fan of some of the Nike England shirts since it switched from Umbro. Especially the one at the last World Cup, I think is an awful, awful shirt.
Oh, it's terrible. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
awful.
But this I think is an absolute beaut. I think it's one of the best shirts Nike has made in recent years. I absolutely love it. I thought the away one was quite nice as well. The blue one, we just never wore it at the Euros. We only ever wore this one, so which is that seems to be a thing with international shirts. The away kits never really get worn other than for
Yeah,
marketing purposes. So, and I'd
yeah. One of my
imagine
pet
it'll be the
peeves.
same.
Oh, sorry, Karen.
It'll probably be the same at the this Euros with England as well. Like one of the shirts I've got upstairs is Germany's away from the last World Cup. Gorgeous shirt. They never wore it.
Yeah, my one of my we've spoken about this before, and off the podcast. One of my pet peeves with international kits is that they change them every year, like a club. And I was like, but international teams you play like 10 times in a year, if that.
Yeah.
And so it gets your away kit, yeah, it barely ever gets worn. So it's a bit of a money spin. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, no, definitely. But yeah, great shirt. I think I've only worn it for like one England game because mine arrived just for the final and
Mm.
we lost.
Yeah, obviously we watched that. You were there, weren't you? You were at mine, weren't you, for that game?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, we had a big watch along for the so we hosted at my house the England Italy Euro 2020 finals. Like we went to the pub, the Hot Pole in Bromsgrove, classy
yeah.
establishment. First, we went there and then had everyone around to watch mine. Very eventful night, shall we say?
Yeah.
We all got COVID from someone. Obviously, had came in with COVID and spread it around. So I had a nice 10-day. Oh no, I didn't actually have it, but you still had to isolate.
Yeah, yeah,
So we had a heat wave the following week,
yeah.
and I was working at Sainsbury's at the time. It was meant to be on 4 a.m. starts a week, and instead I got paid 10 days in the garden drinking beer. It was great. Like, um, so it was one small silver lining after England and after the tournament ended. Um, but yeah, shall we move then into we're going to do a little kind of retrospective, the Euros and stuff, and like talk about years gone by before we get into Euro 2024. So, Cal, what are your like what's your earliest Euros memory, or do you even know what it is?
Absolutely. I should have got it out the loft because I'm pretty sure I have it. So the first tournament I remember is Euro 2004.
Wow,
Um,
blimey.
yeah. Not in like massive detail. Well, I don't remember the O2 World Cup at all. That is like ancient history to me. It just nothing about that. I couldn't really tell you much about that tournament at all, really. As whereas Euro 2004, this was around the year where me and my dad were doing like the Premier League sticker books. So we did the Euro 2004 sticker book. I remember filling that. I've got it completed. I think it's in the loft. Um, and obviously it has the pull out in it for the tournament tree. So I remember filling that out. I remember like Latvia being in it. In like the group. I think Spain got knocked out in a group stage this
Mm.
tournament. And I don't remember. I remember England. They played. Did they play Trinidad and Tobago? No, that'd be the '06 World Cup
No,
actually.
yeah, yeah, they
Yeah,
played Trinidad at the Euros.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
sure.
That'd be the '06 World Cup.
No, you're thinking
Uh,
2006.
yeah,
2004 was when they played France in the first game.
yeah.
Zidane.
The first, so some of the England games I don't really remember. I remember the game against Portugal. I remember going back to watch that and like being did Rooney got injured like really early on. He was like England's golden boy for that tournament and got injured in
Yeah.
like the first 10 minutes. And then and then England went on to lose. And then I remember watching the final where Greece won it at
Mm.
home. So like not like massive like detailed memories, but I remember the ball, like the silver ball with like the black sort of
Yeah, it's
cross on either
beautiful
side.
football.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um and I remember Ronaldo playing for Portugal and like that's the year of like the Portugal kits were like the T90 style as well. Templates like
Yeah.
proper
Football
kits.
kits peaked around then, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Football
Like that's
heritage.
a golden era.
Yeah.
Yes,
Uh,
this is football heritage. It's interesting you say that because I kind of don't. I mean, we're the same age, but I don't remember Euro 2004 at all, really. Kind of what you're saying with 2002. I'm kind of the same with Euro 2004. I
hmm.
think I was six, seven, maybe. Um, yeah, I would have turned seven when the tournament was on. Um, yeah, I just don't remember it all really. And then I think I remember the World Cup in 2006. I think I went to my first Blues game in 2005. So that's probably when I first got into football really. And I
Yeah.
think around 2006 was when I properly was like following it every week. So yeah, 2004 I don't remember at all. And then obviously 2008 in Austria and Switzerland, obviously none of the home nations or Ireland qualified.
No.
So I didn't, and obviously back then the Euros was only 16 teams as well. So it was a little harder to qualify. Um, so I don't remember that one either.
That's one of my favorite
Because
Euros.
by all accounts, the quality was it was a really good tournament. Apparently, obviously Spain won it.
Yeah, it was just enjoyable because England weren't in it, and so there was none of that sort of. It was
Mm.
a little bit like I guess with the 2018 World Cup where everyone expected England to get knocked out very very early, and so there wasn't that sort of. And it was like no talking like the golden generation or anything like that. It was just all about the international football and the teams that were there, and there was none of this like England media hype, and so it was a really enjoyable tournament from what I remember.
I think with me, I didn't. I think I was 2008. I was really into football. I was going to Blues a lot and stuff. And I remember the game. I remember watching the Croatia game where England didn't qualified. I don't know
Yeah.
if you remember watching that, the Scott
Scott
Carson
Carson,
era.
yeah. I think he was a Villa
Yeah, I
player at the
remember
time
watching
as
that.
well.
He was, yeah. It was his debut as well, where he barely played for England anyway. Um,
The
and
Wally
I
with the
actually went to a
brolly.
qualifier. Yeah, the Wally with the Riley, Steve McLaren. I went to an Ireland. It was my first Ireland game. Was in the qualifying for Euro 2008 as well, which was away at Wales at the Millennium Stadium. Actually, it finished 2-2. Right, I think Robbie Keane might have scored both goals. Definitely scored one of them. Kevin Doyle might have scored one, maybe. Um, but yeah, I think now, like, if none of the home nations or Ireland qualified for a tournament, I would still watch it all now.
Yeah.
But at the time, I don't know, when I was like 10 or 11, I just didn't, I just wasn't interested. I barely watched any of Euro 2008, I think. So weirdly, my earliest Euros memories are Euro 2012, which is mad because I was like 16
Yeah.
or 15. So like, that's kind of mad, really. So this really is only the fourth Euros I'll be watching a lot of, really. But going back to your point about Euro 2004, yeah, that football is
Yeah.
I love the design of that football. With like, I may be wrong. I think Euro 2004 I think it's the only case of a silver goal being scored, um, which is a golden goal. But so if you went into extra time, if you scored in the first half of extra time, the game would end at half time in extra time. And I think it's the only case where a silver goal's happened. I think it might have been Greece in either
It-
the quarterfinal or the semi-final, which I think is a pretty interesting footnote.
yeah.
But yeah, a
I wouldn't have known that. So
little bit of trivia for you there. Could be
yeah.
wrong. I'm pretty sure it's right. But yeah, um,
I think we sort of talked about it in what we're wearing, I think, for this question for you, but favorite Euros memory?
yeah, I got a few. I mean, I made a note of a few. The one which instantly springs to mind just for like a great game. I actually think of the three Euros I remember clearly. I do genuinely think, despite all the stuff with COVID and like the situation, everything, I do think actual football at the last Euros in 2021 was the best. I do think it was a really good tournament. Um, and the first game which springs to mind is Switzerland France in the round of 16, where they
What
drew
game?
3-3, and Switzerland won on penalties. France were like the favourites in the whole tournament, and they got knocked out in the round of 16. And I remember I watched it. It was one of my cousin's birthdays, and we went round, and just everyone was watching it in their living room. And France 3-1 up. Is that right?
Something like that, yeah.
Um, and Switzerland scored. They equalised in like the last minute. It was a brilliant goal. Um, yeah, it was just an amazing game. And it was the same day. I think Croatia and Spain played as well. I think that day in the round of 16. That was like 5-3 to Spain or something after extra time. But yeah, that Switzerland France game was unreal. I remember Pogba scored a brilliant curling goal
Mm.
to make it 3-1. And then somehow Switzerland pulled it back before extra time to take it to extra time. And then I remember in the penalty shootout, Mbappe missed like the crucial
Yeah.
penalty. And it just blew the tournament wide open because like the favourites were out. And obviously in this country as well, like they were kind of seen as England's like biggest threat. Um, yeah, so that was an amazing memory. Other memories, I remember watching Euro 2012, probably one of my earliest Euros memories. Uh, England played Sweden in a game.
Yeah.
Um, and it finished 3-2 to England, but they were 1-0 up and then came out in the second half and blew it and were 2-1 down. And then I
Olaf
think, did
Melberg
Danny
scored.
Welbeck? Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. And I think Welbeck scored the winner, I think, for England, Danny Welbeck. And I remember it was a Friday night game. I think it was their second group game. And it was just a brilliant, really exciting game. I remember watching it with my dad, just having a pizza and stuff. It's just a nice memory. Yeah, so that was a great game. And then obviously, because I went to the Euros in 2016, they're really fun memories. And like Wes Hoolahan scoring for Ireland against Sweden, the first game, being there for that was really special. Then obviously Robbie Brady scoring against Italy to take them through in the last group game was really special. And not so much a game, but Euro 2016. I remember, like when you really admire a player rather than a team.
Yeah.
I honestly think Antoine Griezmann at Euro 2016, he was. I think it's one of the.
Unbelievable.
It's just a moment in time, like
Yeah.
that. He just. And I think it's the first time I'd really seen him play like regularly. I wouldn't really watch. That's why I get really into like the Euros and the World Cup because I actually don't watch as much Champions League football or
Mm.
European football as a lot of people. Um, and like that's why like our niche is like sort of West Midlands football
Yeah.
because what I'm really into. Um, but yeah, that's why it's kind of special for me. Like it's kind of like what people would have had decades ago. imagine, where they didn't have access to watch all this stuff, and then a Euros and a
Yeah.
World Cup comes around, and you get to see all these players.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you don't see like in domestic football. But yeah, in the semi-final, I should say, against Germany. Um, and yeah, his famous celebration, like the hotline bling, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just a brilliant player. Yeah, so they're just kind of a handful of my favorite memories from your years gone by at the Euros. How about you? What are some of your fondest memories?
I mean, in terms of a game, one that really comes to mind is while it was an awful tournament for England is the Wales game at Euro 2016. I remember watching that when Gareth Bale
Oh
scored
yeah,
to put Wales 1-0 up, and somehow England managed to turn it around, and Daniel Sturridge scored a last minute winner. That was pretty cool. I remember watching
yeah.
that. Um,
I was in a
Euro,
bar in Bordeaux watching that.
yeah.
I really clearly remember watching that. Yeah.
But we won't talk about the rest of that tournament because it was terrible, a disaster in terms of England. I like Euro 2004. I mentioned, obviously, I remember doing the sticker book for that, and that's a really special memory. But the last Euros is probably my favourite. So I got to work at the last Euros. I was based up in Scotland for 4 games, which was 2 for Scotland. So it was, what was it? It was Scotland, Czech Republic, Croatia against the Czech Republic, Croatia, Scotland, and then the round of 16 game, which was Sweden, Ukraine. Awful game, awful game.
Yeah.
Um, and that was really cool. And as much as I enjoyed like my 5 weeks up in Glasgow for that, that was very much what could have been Euros as well in terms of if it was packed out. I was never meant to be in Glasgow. I was originally meant to be in Baku
Yeah.
for 4 games, and then because of COVID, it all got cancelled, and I ended up going to Scotland instead a year later. So like that was like a what could have been like originally I was going to Azerbaijan, and I would have been there for the Wales games and that. I'd like such an obscure country that when are you ever going to go to Azerbaijan? Like it's so
Yeah.
far away,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
awkward to get to as well. It's very hard to get direct flights there from the UK. So, but yeah, to work at Euros is pretty cool.
And do you remember when the games were actually in Baku? It was awful. Like because of the COVID situation and stuff. Oh, it's terrible. The atmosphere was
Yeah.
so bad, and like it's a great tournament, but that I hated having games there. It was just and like, but it was quite funny seeing Wales moan constantly about it and having to travel there constantly.
Yeah,
Um,
because obviously these were like the first sort of games with fans back in the stadium as well.
yeah.
So I managed to go to 3 of the 4 games in Glasgow because I was at the stadium, and like Croatia Czech Republic was like was the first game that I had been to since the 2020 League Cup final. So like it was more than a year
Wow.
since I'd been to a game, and because we couldn't go to games, so that was like over a whole season had passed, and that was the first game I went to. So like that's a memory that I really treasure. That first game
Nice.
back.
Nice. Yeah, obviously like Hampden Park as well must have been really cool to see all that,
Yeah,
and home games for Scotland and so on must have been a major tournament must have been really cool. Um, Sweet. Shall we move on then to this tournament then? Obviously Euro
yeah,
2024 uh kicking off on June the 14th. First game's Germany Scotland actually, which I think it's gonna be a really interesting
yeah,
opening game because Germany aren't what they were, and obviously Scotland had a really good qualifying. So it'll be interesting to see that. But I'm gonna go big with first question, Cal. Like obviously tournaments coming up. Who is your favorite? Do you have a favorite? Who's gonna win this Euros?
France.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a
I think
boring answer, but it's
yeah, I just can't look past them. Their squad is a joke. Hey, it's absolutely
yeah,
ridiculous. Yeah, it's hard to look past them. And I think when you look at the favourites for this tournament as well, um, so on most bookies actually England are the favourites, and I think that's fair. I think that England's front four of Bellingham, Kane, Saka, Foden, probably what it's going to be, is outrageous, like
yeah,
outrageous. And the season, I
yeah,
know Bayern didn't win anything, but the season Kane's just had, and the season Bellingham's just had,
and
and the
Foden.
season Foden's just had, unbelievable. Um, but yeah, it's hard to look past France, and I think Deschamps, obviously still their manager. He's won the World Cup and the Euros as a player, and he's won the World Cup as a manager. He's not won the Euros as a manager.
Yeah.
I think that
Should have
is
done.
like he should have done in 2016. Yeah, they were how they didn't beat that Portugal team. Like, we'll never know. But yeah, I can see. I think he's got that to tick off still, and then he'll have completed it. He's completed
Yeah.
international football then. Um, anyone
It's
else on your radar in the teams though that you think?
I do think England will have a good chance, despite what people's thoughts on Gareth Southgate are at the end of the day, that there's more than enough quality in that squad to go deep into the competition. I'm interested. I feel like there's a few teams that you'd expect to be up there, but they're sort of unknowns, which would be Spain and Germany. They are complete sort of unknowns because they've been nowhere near it in the last few major tournaments. I know Spain, did they get to the semi-finals of the last Euros, but they were absolutely dreadful in that tournament, and how they got that
Yeah,
far, I have no idea. Um, and
I
then but
find it
the
mad with them. Like for all the quality that they have, Alvaro Morata is still their main striker. I just find
yeah,
that wild. I really find that wild.
yeah, 100%. Like he didn't have a great World Cup from what I remember either.
No, no, no.
So Belgium probably aren't what they were. Um,
Mm,
Portugal are probably, and I think if we touch on dark horses, I think they would probably be my dark horse. Not that they're like a huge like underdog, but you know, I think Roberto Martinez is this will be his first major tournament with Portugal.
yeah.
It'd be interesting
Not
to
quite sure how we
see.
swung that job as well, by the way. Not quite sure how that's happened.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, I don't think he's a bad manager by any stretch of the
No, no.
imagination. That Belgium side at the last World Cup was leaning too many players that were past the level. Your Eden Hazards and your Vertonghen's and your Alderweireld's.
Mm,
Um, I think the main thing for me with Portugal and Roberto Martinez is, I think for them to become a really good team again, they really kind of need to move past Ronaldo. I'm amazed he's going to this tournament because I wouldn't have taken him. Um,
no, no.
you know, I, I just think you'll be a better team without him and his sort of disruption. And obviously, he doesn't do anything off the ball. He'll score you a lot of goals, but there's a reason he plays in Saudi Arabia now.
And he caused the right stink in Qatar. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Because do you remember there was the like, little things in Qatar? Like, do you remember they scored a goal? I can't remember who put the ball in, but it
Fernandez, wasn't
jumped.
it?
Was it? Yeah, and
Yeah.
it like the ball maybe like grazed Ronaldo's hair,
Yeah.
and the whole story was just about Ronaldo. Like, did he? It was his goal apparently. It's just yeah, I feel like he was such a negative influence in Qatar. And obviously it
And,
was all kind of billed as like his last chance to win a World Cup, really.
and that was all off the back of his Man United sacking as well, wasn't it? Or was that
Yes, it was.
about
Yeah,
to
no, it was.
happen?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no, I think it was. Yeah, because he didn't have a club at the time. Is that right?
Yeah.
And I understand like Euro 2016, he like single-handedly dragged them to winning that tournament somehow because they didn't win a game in the group and somehow won the whole
No.
tournament. But I think this is a lot about how like open this Euros is that Portugal are they're, a lot of bookies, they are the fourth favourites to win. And I don't think they're that great. Like you've mentioned them as a dark horse rather than like an out and out winner, or a favourite. Because most bookies have it as England and then France and then Germany and then Portugal. And I think Germany, like there was like a 20-year period where Germany consistently hit a semi-final at every
Yeah.
tournament. I think it's from like the World Cup in 2002 to the World Cup in 2008. Sorry, 2008,
Nice.
2018.
Yeah.
Every World Cup and Euros, they got to a semi-final at least. I think 2018 was the first one where they didn't. But they're just, yeah, they're not that consistent anymore. They've really not performed that well
No.
since.
Knocked out
They
in the
obviously,
group of the last two World Cups and then knocked
yeah,
out, was it the round of 16 against England in the last Euros? Or was it the
yeah, it was, yeah,
quarterfinal?
yeah. No,
No,
it's
it
the
would
round
be
of
the round of
16, wasn't
16,
it?
yeah.
Yeah, because quarterfinal England played Ukraine, didn't they?
Yeah.
So yeah, and obviously they changed manager within the last year. I think it's just because they're hosting, that people have got them up there, and it is Germany. Never rule them out. They've got some quality players, but it's weird. Certain players like Thomas Muller is still going for Germany, and he is like at the World Cup. He's like a beast. He just can't.
Yeah.
He's incredible. But he's never scored at Euros. Just a weird contradiction with them. They're just not as consistent as they once were. Um, but no, it'd be interesting to see how they got on. Um, you talk about dark horses then. So if you had to pick a dark horse, would Portugal be your pick for
I
dark
think
horse?
I think so. I mean, it's mad to say that they're the fourth favourites according to the bookies, and they're my dark horse. But I think I don't think anyone would hand on heart say yes, they're my pick to win the Euros. But I think they do have so much quality in there when you kind of look into it. Players like Bernardo Silva, Bruno Fernandes. As much as I don't like him, he's a quality
Mm.
footballer if you get him in the right system and the right players with him. And I feel like he's more likely to drag Portugal through matches now, maybe more than a Cristiano Ronaldo, who they still have, who I did say, he'll still score you a couple of. He'll definitely score at this Euros, I would imagine, if he gets on the pitch.
Yeah.
I think if you can get João Felix firing, then there's a quality player in there somewhere. You know, for his age, I haven't checked if he's going, but I assume Pepe's still going.
Sure.
Um, there's
I
good,
think
there's
with
good.
Portugal as
There's good players
sorry,
in
Karen.
there. Rafael Leao's a good player as well. So I think they could do something at this Euros. That they could surprise some people.
Yeah, and they've got, I mean, worth looking at the groups as well. I think they've got quite a favourable group as well. They're in Group F with Turkey, Georgia, and Czech Republic. So you would very much expect them to win that group. I know that's not how it always
Yeah.
works, but that's probably on paper one of the easier groups if you're the
Yeah.
top seeded team in it. But that's not to dismiss kind of coming on to maybe one of my dark horses, not to win, but to have a good run in it. Um, Turkey had a really good qualifying.
Don't do
They
it,
won.
Dan. Don't do it. Everyone said this at the last Euros that Turkey were the dark horses
Oh, what
to
did
do
they? Oh,
really well.
okay.
Yeah, do you not remember? Turkey were the
No, I
dark
don't.
horses for Euro 2020, and I don't even think they got out the group. They finished bottom of the group. They were
Oh,
awful.
okay.
Don't fall into
Uh,
the Turkey trap.
Okay, well in that case, they're not my dark horse. I was just gonna say they won their group. They actually finished above Croatia in qualifying, which is interesting. Um, they could still win that group. But you know who the other dark horses? I can't believe I'm saying this. Um, not a dark horse, but like just worth mentioning, I guess. Albania. So Albania also won their qualifying group. Granted, they didn't really have another big gun in there. They beat actually Czech Republic and Poland, Moldova and Faroe Islands to win the group. So I suppose it's not the most impressive group. But you would kind of say Albania are more of a minnow. But I just think it would be interesting to see how they get on because they're in Group
The
B,
group of
and that is
death.
the group of death. Yeah, they're in there with Spain, Croatia, and Italy. But we've already talked about like Italy. Sorry, no, we've already talked about Spain, and they're like not what they were compared to 10 years ago. Croatia had a really poor World Cup in 18 months ago. I don't think they got out of the group, did they? Um,
They're a team that feel like they're on the decline now. A lot of their like
yes.
golden age players are all in their mid to late 30s. Like Modric is almost hitting 40 and he's still like their best
Mm.
player, you know.
Yeah, completely. And then the other one in there, Italy, is really interesting. Obviously, they're the holders. So it's weird that they haven't come up in the conversation yet, but they're just such a weird team. Obviously, they
Yeah.
didn't qualify for the World Cup in 2018 and then won the Euros and were
Yeah.
brilliant. They were,
Yeah.
Mancini's Italy were brilliant at Euro
Yeah.
2020. But then they didn't qualify again for the
Yeah.
World Cup in Qatar. I don't know how you do that. They were so good in the last Euros.
Yeah.
So it'd be really interesting to see. Obviously, Mancini's gone. He manages the Saudi Arabian national team now. But be really interesting to see what Italy team turns up. So what I'm saying is it's open. That group is wide open. It
Yeah.
could be like a situation where, do you know, at the World Cup in Brazil, where England were in the group of death with who was in it? Italy and Uruguay, and that group was won by Costa Rica. You
Yeah.
know, so something like
I,
that
I
could
was gonna I
happen.
was gonna mention the last Euros, the group of death had did it have Spain, Germany, Hungary, and somebody else in it, and everyone had Hungary to
Was it
finish bottom of the group, and they won the group, or
Italy?
they
Oh no, it's France. It was France.
yeah, maybe it was. I remember there was a point where Hungary on the final day were top in the group, and I think they did they go through. I don't know whether I can't remember whether they got through or not, but like you can't write these teams off sometimes.
Sweet. So before we kind of wrap up our Euros preview, so we're gonna have. I know we already said our prediction for the winner, but we're gonna fully get it in writing. So Cal, I want your prediction for the winner, Golden Boot winner, so top scorer, Golden Ball, I guess, for best player.
Best player, Golden Ball, yeah. And are we going to do Golden
Um,
Glove as well? Because that's not on clean sheets necessarily, is it? It's on like best goalkeeper.
oh, is it? So it's not necessarily whoever keeps the most clean sheets, just an award for best goalkeeper.
Well, Emi Martinez won it at the World Cup, and he definitely didn't have the most clean sheets, I don't think.
True. I suppose, yeah, yeah, I suppose very true. And I suppose the more games you play, the less likely you are to have kept a higher number of clean sheets, I guess, arguably. So we'll do that, and then we'll do where are England going to finish as well, and Scotland for that matter, because they're our home nation. Um, cool. So we already said winner. We think France.
Yeah.
Cool. Golden Boot.
Mbappe.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same. I should have gone first on that one. I think it'd be Mbappe. I think this is
Yeah.
like he hasn't really had a Euros where he's obviously had his World Cup moment in 2018, and he was amazing at the last World Cup in
Oh,
Qatar as well.
I mean, he's got a hat trick in the final at the last
I
World
mean,
Cup. Yeah.
yeah, like his equaliser is for to make it 2-2 is just one of my favourite World Cup moments ever. That was amazing.
Yeah.
Um, and then so Golden Ball.
Best player. It's hard to say. Doesn't necessarily get to the best to the top goal scorer.
Hmm. I
Although,
also just to mix it up, I think if Mbappe already won the Golden Boot, maybe Griezmann. Give it to Griezmann. I think he comes alive at the Euros. He's a different beast at the Euros.
yeah, in that France setup, it like everything kind of runs through him, and that's what I
Yeah,
like. He's definitely an international player more than a club player for me, anyway.
yeah, yeah. I agree.
I do think England will come on to England, but so maybe we'll say Golden Ball, maybe a Jude Bellingham or a Harry Kane. Don't know if I could
Yeah,
bring myself to
Bellingham. I think it's a
say. I
good
can't.
shout.
Don't know if I could bring myself to say Bellingham, but yeah, we'll say him.
Oh, that would be amazing. I'd love that. Yeah, that would be amazing. Especially if they win the. We're recording this before the Champions League final.
Yeah,
If Madrid win the Champions League and he then has an amazing Euros, I mean, come on, he's
could be on for the Ballon d'Or.
for sure. Not that I really pay much attention to the Ballon d'Or, but yeah, I think that would be quite remarkable. Um,
What about then the home nations? Where do you think they're going to go?
I think I think England are the second best team in the tournament. I do. I think that front four is outrageous. It just depends when they meet France. The Euros is really hard to work out now because obviously some of the third place teams go
Yeah,
through. So it's really the World Cup's much easier to work out. Like,
please sack it off
um,
UEFA,
well, the rumor is that they're going to go to 32 teams, aren't they, at the
which you can
next
do for the Euros. I
Euros?
don't have any
Yeah, I
issues.
think you can. No, yeah, I think you can as well. Although it'd make qualifying not the most interesting. But
I'm telling you, I have it sorted. Just Seferin, hit me up, slide in the DMs. I can fix it all for you. You have your Nations League, so your 32 team qualifying or whatever. So like the top 26 teams in the Nations League or whatever, the best way the maths works, automatically qualify for the Euros. You don't have to play those qualifiers. And then maybe you can have your playoffs then for the last few places in the Euros. So you can get a sort of like a wild card, like a North Macedonia or a
yeah,
Georgia in there that can get their sort of glory moment to play at the Euros. Um, and there's your qualifying sorted for a 32 team Euros.
nice, interesting. Good shout. I yeah, so I think England will get. I think I've heard that they'd be on if everything goes as expected, they'd be on course to play France in the semi-finals. I think is what's likely to be. I could be wrong, but if so, I'd say semi-finals for England. But that's not because I think they are good enough. I just think France are the best. It's like what happened at the last World Cup in Qatar where they got knocked out by France.
Yeah.
I'd argue that is the best England have played under Southgate at any tournament,
Yeah.
but they just happened to play one of the best teams earlier.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it'd be a similar thing, but I think they are the second best team in the tournament. So that's what I'm saying for England. If they don't meet France till the final, then I think it'll be the final. But yeah, what about you? What are you saying?
I'm tempted to kind of say the same thing. I do hope England play France at some point because that game at the World Cup in 2022 was amazing. Even
Brilliant.
even though they came on the wrong side of it, of the result, that match was absolutely one of the highest quality matches. Like the final was outrageous, but like it was such a wacky game, like a 3-3 is,
Mm,
whereas that England France game, the quality of that match was just incredible from minute one.
mm.
Um, so I hope that they don't end up meeting really early on in the tournament because it's like a waste, although it can blow
Yeah,
the
yeah.
tournament wide open. But yeah, I think semi-finals has kind of got to be the minimum for England at the Euros, really, for how good they
Mm,
are at the moment. Um, so yeah, maybe they can squeak their way into the final,
mm.
depending on who they play. But yeah, definitely the semis.
Yeah, for sure. I think as well, like your point about the meeting later on. I think because as the Euros has expanded, I think there was some weight to the point a few years ago that the Euros in a way was harder to win than the World Cup because especially when the Euros was only 16 teams, you were playing good teams like straight away,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean. Like, and every group was kind of a group of death in a way. Now that it's a little more expanded, it's a, there's a bit more filler in there. Whereas the World Cup, obviously, because there's lower quality teams in it, because obviously teams from certain confederations are guaranteed a certain number of spaces. Um, so I think the current format, arguably with the Euros, does allow the really big ties to maybe happen a little bit later, arguably, like and you get kind of your dream final, hopefully. Um, but no, sweet. What about Scotland then? Where are you saying for them?
They're an interesting one because I feel like it's a group they will back themselves to get out of. I think, maybe at the last Euros, that it's the first time they've been to a major tournament in a long time at home. They kind of buckled under the pressure in a way, especially in the first game against the Czech Republic, as whereas that was one of their big winnable games to give themselves a chance, and they made a complete mess of it and lost 2-0, and there was no turning back from there. Obviously, they're in the group with Germany because we said it's the first game, and then Hungary and Switzerland. Talk about sort of like experienced teams playing at a Euros or a World Cup. So that I imagine they're pretty streetwise, and Switzerland can be dark horses sometimes. They can really pull some surprise results out at major tournaments, I find. Um, but I'll back them to get out the group. Hand on heart, I don't really think they will get out the group, but I think they could maybe squeeze. I suppose with the third place thing, they could.
Yeah, exactly,
They
exactly.
the round of 16's got to be I forgot about the third place thing because I hate it so much. So I think that's got to be the target to try and finish as a decent third place team. Maybe if they can get to a second place, that could be something. But they've got to be looking at the round of 16. I mean, you look back to the Euros in 2016, and you had Republic of Ireland and Wales, and
That's it.
even Northern Ireland got to the round of
Yeah,
16.
so that's what I was going to say, and why I think they will. I think they'll get to round 16 as well, and I think that'd be an achievement for them, and obviously would be an improvement on the last Euros where they went out in the groups, which was disappointing for them, I think. I think Northern Ireland at the last Euros is a great example where they only won one game. I think they lost the other two. I think they beat Ukraine in one of their games, and that was enough to get them into the round of 16.
3 points should
Um,
get you through as long as you don't
yeah, it's
as
pretty
long as you don't
mad.
get battered in any other matches.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that's feasible, and I think Switzerland and Hungary, like you say, they always qualify for these things. But Switzerland didn't even win their qualifying group; they actually came second behind Romania. Um, I I think it's feasible Scotland could beat one of them, and I think they're just on a bit of a feel good factor. They were brilliant in qualifying. And remember the Spain at Hampden Park as well. Um, yeah, I think they'll just get out. I think they'll lose the first game to Germany, obviously. Um, but yeah, no, I'd back them to get out the round of 16, and I think that's where they'll draw the line. I think that's where their journey will end. But no, it'd be interesting to see how they get on. I think Steve Clark's done a good job there, very good
Oh,
job.
brilliant job! He's brilliant job.
Yeah,
And I hope they
one we
get
missed.
knocked out really early so John McGinger's back to Villa Park and can have the summer off because he's played so much football this season, and he'll play
Yeah,
every
true,
minute for Scotland as well. So,
for
um,
sure. Yeah, for sure. Well, the one we missed off, Golden Glove. You got any thoughts on that?
uh, yeah, I know
Because
it's my
I
suggestion.
I'm
I
gonna
don't really know.
I'm gonna
Uh,
say I actually think Pickford because I actually think England's style of play and all that actually, and I think they'll get far, and I do think they'll be a little more solid. And I think if France, they're a bit more gung ho, aren't they? France
yeah.
traditionally.
So
Yeah,
first tournament for
no,
them
Pickford is
without
not.
Hugo Lloris for a long time as well.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I think I'm not Pickford's biggest fan, but yeah, he's had a good season, and I think England will get far in the tournament, and I think he'll have a good tournament. Yeah, sweet. I think that's just about everything then. Do you think, Cole?
Yeah, I think we've covered everything. Tournament fever is on the way. Bring it on.
Yeah, man. Get the beer garden going and all that, sun shining. So yeah, can't wait. Hopefully it'll be in terms of quality as good as the last World Cup, the last couple of World Cups and the last Euros for sure. That'd be wonderful. Um, sweet. We will be back very shortly with our we're doing our and we're gonna actually before the Euros start, we're gonna dive quickly back into club football and just do our full on wrap up of the 23-24 season, and then it's full steam ahead on the Euros. So look forward to that. Keep an eye out for that. We're gonna be doing it in person. and have a catch up about that, reviewing Blues and Villa seasons. So until then, Cal, keep right on, shit on the Villa.
See you next week, Dan. Up the Villa, and it's coming home.